Hi guys, sorry about the technical difficulties. Third time's the charm. I hope it says, yeah, there we go. Um, so usually we start with a little intro of a slideshow that goes, but that was really not working for us today. I don't know why we're having technical difficulties. But welcome to Part-Time Permies. I think there's a few new people in here. Probably coming over from Justin Rhodes' show a few minutes ago, so I apologize for the delays on getting started and the third attempt. Yeah, we can blame it on YouTube. I've never had that issue before. That was the first one. Um, it was supposed to be streaming, and it was showing that it was still waiting for us. I don't know. That was just weird. But yeah, or Roots and Refuge, are they finishing up as well? I know they were going last hour and they sometimes go over a little bit, which we do all the time too, so no blame there. That's fine. But welcome you guys. I hope everybody finds the third attempt at the live stream. But anyway, let me set up my screen back how I had it because I had to restart my browser. It may have been a browser issue. I don't know. But it seemed to be on for everybody having issues. So for those of you guys who are new, I just need to adjust it so I can see the chat here. There we go. Okay. Leland on Life usually misses the show. Okay, well, you made it this time. That's awesome. And you are probably, I'm guessing, a few hours north of us. If you're on the Leelanau Peninsula, that's awesome. That's in Michigan. So I'll start with, since we have so many new people, it looks like, in here, and some old people, not old people, but people who've been watching us for a while, let's just go ahead and run through where everyone is at, what state you're in, province, country, if you're not in this hemisphere. We are in Southwest Michigan, so a lot of what we talk about has to do with our region, but a lot of it also applies across the country and other areas too, as far as when we talk about forage things. Today, we're not doing a forage food feature because we've been crazy busy and I've been trying to start seeds. So we have, let's see here, North Carolina, Arkansas, Traverse City, of course, up north. Maryland near Baltimore, that's where my mom grew up. Texas Hill Country, that's Curie from Built on Rock Homestead. Central Wisconsin. We have a lot of all over the US here. That's awesome. So I just wanted to go over kind of a little bit of a rundown of the busy last couple weeks, and then we'll do an Ask the Chef question. So for those of you guys who don't know, Mike is just sitting silent next to me.
Oh, you're going blah 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 blah
I'm
blah blah
sorry.
blah blah blah. So you don't have anything to say.
Mike is a chef, so he'll be able to answer any cooking questions and things. If you guys have them, I will double check to see if anyone has put any cooking questions on our Facebook page this afternoon. So I'll pull that up as well. But has anybody, and we have it all across the country, it looks like, has anybody started seeds where you're at? Okay, last 2 days were in the 80s. Wow. We've not been above
It'll be
freezing.
a long time before we see that.
No, we're not getting there anytime soon. But did want to kind of review because we haven't been live in about 2 weeks. So usually we do this every Sunday night, not every other, so every Sunday night. But we did get 3 videos out in the last couple weeks. 2 of them are part of a series that we've started on pork butchery, where we went to a friend's house to help them along with a couple others. Who else was there?
We had about five families were there.
Yeah, we had Pratt Family Homestead, who has their
Yep.
own channel.
Homestead Dad,
Homestead Dad,
our Hodgepodge,
our Hodgepodge Homestead.
us, Mosers.
Yes, us, Mosers, and Stefan, who doesn't have a
Yep.
channel, but he has Instagram that he posts to a lot. So a lot of that pig butchery video was actually at Jamie's house. So if you see someone responding to a lot of the questions on those videos, I think is trying to remember his screen name tag, but he is the one who has the pigs and was doing the butchery at that time. So I let him respond to a lot of the questions there because he was going into a lot more detail on them. I don't know if you've looked at the questions on those pages at all. Okay. So, but we have that series going. We also had our fixing our low tunnels because they had collapsed in the first snow in December. That was old footage, so I do apologize for that. But what I can do, we did have a lot of snow this last week or last 2 weeks. We had an ice storm, so those of you guys who follow us on Instagram probably saw some of these pictures. And we had, let's see, some lake effect snow. That was our paths in our woods in back of our house that we often walk on, but we had to walk through bended branches and things. But I will say the tunnels have stayed up. So if you need a trick for how to keep your low tunnels vertical, to keep those poles holding your plastic up without caving in, there is a trick on that video, so you can check that out. So checking this chat out. You're starting the next couple weeks for the plant starting seeds and then plant at the end of March for Square One Farms. That's awesome.
Yeah, last week we weren't here. Tina was saying.
Yeah, last week we were busy. In fact,
yep, we were at an event all Sunday evening.
So if you want to see where we were, you can see if you can find someone behind the line there. But Mike was cooking at a big event at Bravo, which was, they have, you want to explain what this event is a little bit?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a traditional tasting dinner. They've been doing it 30-ish years. It's called All Star Chefs, and it's a invitation by the restaurant in the Kalamazoo area. They take 8 chefs every year. So they invite 8 local chefs to each produce a course, which they've assigned. And it's actually in honor of one of the chef owners' birthdays. And that's how it started. So the idea is we come, they cover most of the bill. We produce a plate. We all plate it out together. We cook the food more or less that we want based on that theme. We share in putting it out. About 150 people attend. They do really nice wine pairings, really good food. And then we do all the labor on it. It comes, complimentary, and that kind of covers the cost for the night. It's not part of their regular business.
No.
And then they offer a chef's table, a chef's dinner following that, where all the chefs that participate and some of their key staff and other people. So there's a small group of us relive the dinner again a second time later in the evening, and they provide. So some of their staff graciously stay behind, and from doing the plate outs the first time, they replate the entire meal a second time for about 25 or 30 of us.
Yeah. Chefs plus guests.
Yeah, so it's a true chef's table. It's kind of a rare, it's an old style thing that happened a lot. It's kind of a rarer thing to happen in our area. And I was invited 2 years ago, and then I was invited again this year.
Yep.
Last year I was without a kitchen, so I wouldn't have been eligible or available to do it anyways. So they invited me back again, and so we did pasta and pork.
Yeah.
Was what was assigned. No specific theme this year, but pasta and pork were my key items.
Yeah, so this was your dish.
So that was our demo plate. That was our first plate out to give people an eye of what we would be producing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So for those of you guys don't know, and hi, Baker's Acres Homestead. Those of you guys don't know, Mike has his own pasta company. So that was pasta that you made.
So that was all pasta from our company.
Yep.
And then the pork. I've done a lot of work with pork. So it was a nice way to work with some of the different cuts and specialty things and produce something that was really nice.
Yeah.
And that actually falls in line with doing pork processing in a little over a week with the roads.
Yep.
So we're gearing up for that.
So you're actually teaching that class in just under 2 weeks is when the class is.
Yes.
We're heading down there.
We head out. Yeah, we head out earlier in that week to get down there and get set up.
Yeah. So, what was the white square thing on the plate?
Well, for some people, it's a chunk of fat. For the rest of us that love pork, it's a piece of slow cooked or sous vide pork belly that was carefully brined and carefully cooked and then carefully cut and warmed and finished and put a gas streak on it, which is basically a sweet and sour. finish, and that actually was a cold plate out, a demo plate. So the pork had not been, it had been cooked, but it had not been warmed, so it looks a little more
Yeah.
cubular than the finished product. And then we also did, I made a homemade sausage, um, and I made some sweetbreads, which ended up being veal sweetbreads. They're supposed to be pork, but with the bad weather, the ice, and the extreme cold, hogs were not going to market, so we couldn't get the local. There was a local producer that was going to get us sweetbreads.
Yeah.
So I switched it back over to veal. We have 4 types of pasta, 4 flavors, 4 colors, 4 shapes, wild mushrooms, peas, and made a sauce, classical French tomato sauce, sitting underneath it.
So it's really good. Hey, Wholesome Roots. Wholesome Roots had a question for you. Did I tell you what that question was before?
I don't know.
She posted it onto, yeah, it was the turkey.
Oh, yeah. All right.
She posted onto Abundant Permaculture's page.
Somebody else was asking about old poultry a few minutes
Yeah,
ago.
how to cook old poultry, old turkey. Basically, not old in that it sat in your fridge too long, but old that it's like 3 years old out in your property, or how to get it tender.
Yeah, actually, they're really quite a delicacy when you have old fowl that are done with their usefulness, not by disease, but just by old age or breeding, stop laying eggs, etc. They're actually some of the best eating that you'll probably have. The key is you need to cook them 3 to 4 hours. So you need to slow braise or stew them with moisture, and you just simmer them until they soften. And what remains is almost like eating red meat versus poultry. It's going to be very flavorful, not necessarily strong, and you'll get the nice collagen and gelatin properties that you might get from like a pot roast. But that's a good sized bird, 16.5 pounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Rose's questions were about brining, holding after butchering. Poultry, typically you don't have to hold very long after butchering. It relaxes. It's not like beef where you hang it for 3 weeks. Most animals don't need much time at all. I don't think it hurts. I've put poultry directly from finishing them and icing them down in bags into the freezer, but more often I like to hold them for a day or so in a fridge just to give them a little time to settle. Whether they relax a little bit, you have some enzymes starting to break down things. It's the beginnings of getting things nice. So I don't think it's bad to hold them for a couple days in the fridge if you have that opportunity. But generally, your regular poultry, you can pretty much go right to cooking within a few hours. But also, I do think brining always is an advantage. Now, the problem is brine puts in salt and sugar and spices. So you can up those ingredients a little bit. If you're salt sensitive, brining's probably not great for you. But otherwise, brining tends to, first it pulls out water and then it pulls in salt, sugar, brine, and spices. And so you're injecting it, which will cause it to plump and stay more moist from the salt water that's contained in the meat and tissues. And so typically poultry is only brined for a day, maybe 2 days. I would not go any more than 3 for sure. But brining will give you more tenderness. All of your commercial turkeys are brined, unless it says that it's not. They're pretty like an organic specialty turkey. They're all pumped in brine. Many of them are pumped with a lot of flavors and junk and tenderizers and bouillon flavors and butter and whatever. You don't need to do that. Simple brine, salt water, a little bit of sugar, honey, or maple in it. Maybe a little bit of black pepper or thyme, and let it sit for a day or two. It will roast out or braise out more tender. And so I would say a day of resting on an old bird and then maybe 2 days of brine and then go use it. But you probably don't want to roast it. You could very, very low smoke it for a long period of time, but I think your best bet is to braise it or stew it in something where there's a good amount of moisture. That will provide optimal use of all of the meat and the rest of it.
Yes, low and slow.
Yeah.
Yep. So awesome. Thanks for joining, Rose.
So it should be great. And if you have extra, sometimes the female. So this is a rooster.
No, this is a tom because it's a turkey.
Oh, it's a tom.
It's a turkey tom.
Yeah. So yeah, but
but it works for roosters too.
Works great for roosters. Coq au vin, which is the French, old rooster with wine. It's a classic. That's a great, works great. You can do even
Crock pot.
crock pot is perfect because that's slow, moist cooking.
Yeah.
Crock pot, Instapot, if you can get it in there. Otherwise, put it in your roaster, tent it up. Can you use Himalayan sea salt for brine? Yeah, you can, but you're probably wasting your money. Um, I would use ideally uniodized salt, so kosher salt or your regular table salt flake, but I prefer not the iodine. The iodine is okay, but it can leave a little bitterness sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like save that for a better use, maybe finishing or seasoning it when you go to roast it or finish your sauce. That's a nice place to put in French sea salt or English sea salt or Himalayan or something nice. But since you're going to dump the brine out, I think
Yeah.
you're likely to be wasting your money more than anything else.
Use a simpler salt. Nice,
Yeah, and you could use a cheap sea salt if you wanted
electric
to.
roaster. Okay.
Yeah, electric roaster is fine. Just make sure it's covered or tented so that you keep that moisture in there. Any way that you can keep the moisture in there, and tin foil does a great job. That it'll work just fine. Um, yeah, and so for your older female roosters when they've stopped laying,
Female roosters.
yeah, or your
Female chickens.
female chickens as they get older, they'll have a big fat pad on the back that
Yeah.
you may want to cut it away. You can render it down and get schmaltz and use it like bacon fat, and it'll be very chickeny. But as far as that will just get greasy, so you probably want to cut it off before trim off some of the extra fat. But otherwise, it's just fine.
Are
And
turkeys that we eat at Thanksgiving all boys, or are they both? They're probably
they're both.
both.
They're both. Now
Yeah.
your large, your 25 and ups,
Are
your 25 to 30 pound are probably going to be
your toms?
toms.
Yeah.
Just because they grow a little faster. Your smaller ones could be either, but there's a better chance they may be females.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you typically don't get much over 25
And
pounds
Carla,
in the grocery
that's
store.
not a dumb question. So, and by the way, I know there's a question back here that was all in caps that we missed, so I'm going to go back to it. What's your specialty to cook? And put questions in caps, that'd be easier for us to see, I think.
My specialty to cook is whatever people pay me to cook. That's part of it.
Right now it's pasta.
Yeah, part of it being a job is most of it is what you're paid to do. But I am a traditionally American trained cook chef. So my background is in European and to some degree classical European, as well as American regional. But I do quite well with international flavors, food substitutions, nutritional cooking, not hardcore dietary, but being very adaptable to people's specific needs. And I've spent almost my whole career in fine dining.
Yeah.
So I am very good at spending. You tell me how much money you got, I can definitely get it spent.
Yeah.
I can get you the right products and we'll try and spend it well, but yeah, we can spend money. That pork plate, I comped the pasta. So I gave them that free on my company. The remainder of the garnishes for about 180 portions was about $600. And I did pretty well with that because
for the one plate.
For the one plate.
Of an 8
And there was
course.
no labor. I have 3 days of labor that is complimentary because I do it because I want to do it for them.
Yeah. And that was for those of you guys who joined in after we talked about that was for a big chefs event last weekend where they brought in 8 chefs from 8 different restaurants or around the area that each made one course and then served it to, how many people were there? About 150?
It slotted to, yeah, it was just under 150.
I think it go up to 200.
It can be up to about 160 or 170 is really pushing it. Depending if they got some late minute VIPs, they got to push in there. And then they go to about up to 30 on the second meal. So it could be right around the 200 mark, but I think we were in the 175. So I actually prepared for about 200 on that amount because I didn't, then some of the numbers came in late.
I think we caught that, Tina. You can use Himalayan
Yeah,
salt,
I just
but
think
it's probably
it's overkill.
a little overkill for expense. Use it for finishing and use your
cheap salt.
Cheaper salt for.
You're not using it for flavor, you're using it for tenderness. You're using it as a chemical component for texture. So, and the only thing I talked about was iodine can be a little on the bitter side.
So don't use that.
So I would avoid iodine, but if you want to use iodized salt, and it can be really hard to find non-iodized salt. Kosher flake is not iodized, but your table salt in the round tubs, many stores will only sell iodized. But in fact, one of my wholesaler, I went to buy a case because I like to cook my pasta water. I want cheap salt. I'm throwing out a lot of it. I went to cook my pasta water, and I couldn't buy a case of non-iodized cheap salt.
That's
They only had
crazy.
iodized, and I know another company has it. I was just shocked that they didn't carry it. So,
Yeah. I'm trying to see if we missed any others. There's been a lot of chat that I know I missed because there's been just a lot of people in the room, which is awesome. So you guys can obviously keep
was it Daryl's
chatting with
doing a full
yourselves.
day of forage on Thursday before conference before is that before homesteaders or before some people are talking about Mother Earth news
Oh
conference?
no. Okay. If he's doing a full day on Thursday,
We'll probably be driving in. I'm pretty busy. I don't,
yeah,
given the amount of time we have to take out, I doubt we'll get in early
that
for
would be
Thursday,
hard.
but you
Oh
never
my
know.
gosh. Me, yeah, I haven't looked at the information on Homesteaders of America yet. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about there. Um, so I still have to set all that up.
Yeah,
But
I've been buying my non-iodized salt in my local grocery store, incidentally. Yeah, the government wants iodized salt, which is a great idea. It prevents goiters, but when was the last time you saw anybody walking around with a goiter that has spent most of their life in the United States?
yeah,
That was pre eating more, seafood and sea fish and things where there's, and some land has natural iodine, but like here in the Midwest,
and there's some people who are allergic to iodine
we could,
too.
well, certain amounts, but we
Yeah,
could be, they put very, very trace amounts in there. So it is a good idea. It was a better idea when we were on a little more restricted diet. So if you're on a homestead diet where you're growing all your own food, you eat almost no seafood, and in the winter you're especially eating your own canned products, root vegetables, etc., you probably want to use iodine and iodized salt in some of your cooking because you need trace amounts. However, most of us, that's sort of an antiquated thing, so don't feel bad about using non-iodized. So
yeah.
I use kosher salt for general cooking because the flake is large and it's easy to not have it clump. It spreads well. It actually weighs by volume, it weighs half as much as your granular salt, although it costs a little more, both of them inexpensive.
Yeah.
Then I use specialty salts. Specialty salts are your sea salts and your unrefined salts. Some of your land salts from all over the place have become popular over the years. Those have trace minerals in them. The salt is basically the same in the saltiness, but because of the trace minerals in there, it will develop different flavor profiles, which can be nice. So Maldon, which is very expensive and forms these nice pyramids. You have the French, or you have some of the French salts, you have some of the English salts.
Hmm.
Was it Murray River apricot salt is from Australia, and
Okay.
of course the Himalayan pink salt, and then you have the black volcanic salt from like Hawaii. So they've all taken on trace minerals in the process of producing or dehydrating the water, the ocean water, to create the salt. You sometimes trap things in there, and if you don't get too much stuff in there, it can be pretty nice. So Himalayan salt comes from the Himalayas. They have these huge blocks that you can buy, and you can actually cook on them. You can get it ground or chunked. It's nice. I think it's gotten a little overplayed, but it's a very good finishing salt. Um, and so, yeah, but
Yeah.
be careful just because it's marketed to pay a lot of money. The other thing that always gets me is you see the spice grinders and the pepper grinders. Well, that makes sense because pepper and spices have they have volatile oils in them, which are your flavors.
Hmm.
So by grinding them fresh, it keeps them fresher longer, and then you release those volatile oils, allowing your pepper to taste the best and not just taste spicy, but taste nice and peppery and more complex flavors by grinding it fresh. Well, they started doing salt grinders, so you have a little bit more chunky salt and you grind it. Well, to me, a salt grinder is pretty much stupid. Now, maybe you want to pulverize it a little more and make it
Yeah.
fine. That's a good idea. But the idea of grinding salt like you're grinding pepper, you're not making the salt any saltier by grinding it. The flavor is the same. Now, the finer you make it, the more
More
it
it'll
may
dissolve.
taste salty on
Yeah.
it. Which also means when you're using chunky salt, be careful because you can put a lot on, get a crystal of salt, and not realize how much salt is there. It can really be it can be overkill. But yeah, the salt grinders are kind of a marketing anomaly that aren't that helpful.
Hello, Ranger Cell. And there's been others who've come in the room. Tap the North from Scotland is here in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah,
um,
that's great.
awesome. So
Yeah, there's some Scottish salts too. So anywhere there's evaporated evaporating fresh water where they can screen
Seawater.
the seawater salt. And anywhere where there was ocean, which is most of the world at some point,
Yeah.
there are salt deposits which can be mined, and so you can get all these different salts. Himalayan sea salt. So what I do with the specialty salts is I use them on fish or meat that I'm grilling or finishing when they're done, where you want a little crunch and texture and a pop of flavor. I will finish with a specialty salt. If you're doing um, vegetables or anything, you're putting it on a finishing platter, you might use it as a garnish in small amounts. It's great for especially rare and raw items to bring the flavor out and the minerality of meats and fish. So I would sprinkle it in small doses on the top of there. You can do your regular cooking and seasoning with those salts, but I just wouldn't get too
Yeah.
excited about it.
So Rose says she buys coarse and then grinds it for certain things.
Yeah, and you can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to buy medium or fine kosher because some of the kosher flake is a little too coarse, and I like to use that as my everyday salt. It's just clean and easy to work with.
Collins Bountiful Acres. Are you a personal chef? You might be my personal chef.
I'm a personal chef if you live close and
pay enough.
and you want to convert my current activities to your activities.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, I haven't done a lot of. I've done lots of
Some
private
parties. Yeah.
but I haven't worked full time as a personal chef. So I do fine dining restaurants, and I've done a lot of private clubs like country clubs, which means that's basically being the corporate personal chef for 200 to 500 families.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of personalization and get to know people because we see them very regularly, sometimes multiple times a week, and we get to know what they like and don't like, and we try, working for them, we try and provide the items that they want. Yeah.
But now you own your own.
Yeah, now I have a pasta company. So we have a specialty artisan pasta company called West Michigan Provisions. It does local wholesale, retail, bulk, packaged, fresh,
and there's a
dry.
link.
And we do mail order.
Yep.
So we do have online mail order if anybody wants to get product. And so what's special about it is our retail products are organic semolina, so it's very high quality, high protein wheat, and it's USDA organic certified wheat. The rest of the ingredients are organic when possible, and then we sell it slow air dried, and it comes off of Italian equipment where we've pressed it instead of rolling and cutting it. We can go into lots and lots of details about how it's very time consuming and specialized, similar to what would happen in small operations in Italy, but the end result is you get an excellent flavor, you get a really nice chew, and you'll be like, wow, I've never had pasta that was that good. And that's because we hear that weekly, people coming back and saying, oh, we bought some pasta, it was a little expensive, and they come back like, oh my gosh, we've never had pasta that good. And you see them week after week after week.
Yeah.
Like some people buy more pasta. I don't know how they eat it all.
Yes, Half Acre Dreams. We are going to have a stand at Hootenanny, and I think you're going to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a pasta demo. I got to pull that together. I think we're gonna kind of informally be making some fresh pasta, which is hand cut. It's like rolling and cutting. It's totally different from how I make it, but I'm happy to show people how to do that and play with that. I will also bring out a small extruder to be able to press pasta. We'll make a small amount. Last year, our contribution to the potluck was smoked braised brisket and noodles. I'm going to guess we'll try and do something with some pasta related to that for the potluck, probably towards the dinner, because I do need to work market
in the morning,
which doesn't get me there until 3 or 4 o'clock.
I am actually going to try to be there the night before. I want to stay the 2 nights, so I'll be setting up camp.
Yeah.
But you'll be joining us, and I'll set up the table that way earlier, so if people want to purchase.
Yeah, so we'll do it at Michigan Homestead Pet Family Hootenanny. So we will be there. We'll put up a tent. We will sell pasta. We sell it at our lowest prices anywhere. So they're at our farm market prices, which are our best pricing, and sometimes they even give away a bunch of stuff on top of that. So the goal is not to fleece people. The goal is to get product accessible and get it out at a great deal for anybody who's there. And then people are asking also if we're going to do it at Homesteaders. At this point, I don't think so. I think a lot of the booths are filled already, but I don't know the food permits.
across state lines.
Across state lines, I could probably technically make my sale online, which is what I do. It goes, and then hand you the product, and we could pretend it happened in Michigan, but that's really
It's
pushing
tight.
state boundaries, and I don't have, I don't necessarily have a permit. I don't have a USDA permit. I have a state of Michigan wholesale permit, which
Yeah.
is basically the same thing. It just means I need to be aware of, and it means I can sell to all 50 states. I just need to sell from my home state.
Yeah.
So.
So it's a little bit
So yeah, so
limited.
that's my full-time professional activities.
Oh no, I did not see your question about the
Swing set
swing
greenhouse.
set
No, we didn't see that. We'll go
greenhouse.
back to that.
I'll have to find that.
It sounds like a good idea.
What are good seasonings for tomato-based dishes like Johnny Marzetti? And I'll go find the other question.
I don't know what Johnny Marzetti is. You have to tell me, or we can quick look it up.
What are good? Yeah, there's Google Pants as let's see. I'm trying to skim through here, or you can repost your question at the end here. Swing set green. I don't know what that actually would be kind of a cool idea to do on our swing set. We
That's not
don't
a
use
bad
it.
idea.
We don't use our swing set. We could turn our swing set into a greenhouse, but we put a greenhouse off our front door. We do have a set of videos on that came out a few weeks ago, or over a few weeks actually. And I did start some seeds, but I started the first set last weekend. I didn't make a like recorded. I'll probably combine videos in the next video, but uh, I haven't published a video on that yet. But I put the seeds out in the greenhouse. It's only been in the 30s. I don't think anything's going to germinate even in the upper 30s in the greenhouse because it's been cold outside. So I did bring them just inside, and I have a shelf with some lighting. Just waiting for the greenhouse to stay consistently in the 40s would be nice. But that means we've been in like the 20s outside right now, so or colder. So okay. Leland all life, I want to put it over the septic for passive heat. Huh. Our septic field,
Yeah, you get heat. You definitely get
yeah.
some heat off of your.
Our septic field area has melted.
Yeah, it's been staying. So we've had a sump
It's been
pump
staying
running an
wet.
awful lot for the entire year. Water tables came up, and so
Yeah.
we have water table just below our basement. So we have a small septic or sump pump that's running, just run off water all the time. So I have a feeling our field's pretty wet right now.
It is
And
above freezing. I'm not
yeah, so it
sure.
stays slightly above freezing. I mean, you don't want it gassing off. You shouldn't be getting
Yeah.
much gassing off. I've heard of people growing kind of their melons and tomatoes over their septic and their drain field, and they get huge. I'm not sure that's an idea I like greatly. You shouldn't be putting root down into virus is the thing that you'd be concerned about. Other issues are not transferring to plants, but
Yeah.
um,
But do you think
passive
it's enough
warming
heat for
sounds.
winter?
Yeah, I don't know.
And in Leland, because you're colder than we are,
A little bit.
a little bit. I mean, on one hand, we have, I can tell you, just ambient temperature over our septic field. Definitely the snow melts faster there. So this is definitely giving off some heat. I don't know if it'd be enough to
Yeah.
grow in the winter, but if you get
Yeah.
enough started before it gets too cold, you
Now
can
there
really
are
hold
people,
things.
there are people that do massive compost piles, which you can look up. You need a pretty large dimension, and they create enough compost heat that they run tubes through them, hoses
Yeah.
through them, and they do active, passive, actively heated through passive means. Greenhouses do large, but I think you need to be really on an animal farm.
Yeah.
Where
You're doing hot composting.
where you're hot composting horse and cow manure or pig manure, where you've got serious amounts of like front loader piles of
Yeah.
manure. And I know people that run heat pumps. Also, they do the sunken greenhouses where they run heat pumps to cool in the summer and then to warm in the winter. And they do that in Minnesota, and that is passive minus the small amounts of fan required for the pumping activity, which is a very small amount of electricity. And those are supposed, when set up properly, are supposed to work pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, safety issues over the septic. I would be careful, especially on young edibles.
And the other thing you're you got to watch. Now, if you grew something like melons or things that are on a trellis, I don't think you would have an issue because you can
Yeah.
put like you could put direct human compost under like
Yeah.
fruit trees as long as you're not growing and eating whatever's touching
Yeah. So
that,
herbs
you're
and
okay.
leafy greens
You
and
don't want
soft
to eat off there.
fruits. That would probably be a
Not no
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
But if you're growing something that you're not, what you're eating is not actually sitting in the manure, you're fine. But septic is well underground, but there's a little give and take on it. Um, we do have. I think that's a great idea, though. It's kind of interesting. I like the swing set idea too. It
Yeah.
just made me think of ours, except my nieces and nephews would not like me converting it into anything but a swing set. Um, Okay, the question of do we have livestock as well? We saw that we were with Justin's butchering pigs. Mike's actually teaching that. Justin's doing the kill, and Mike is doing the butchering because the chef background was part of your training.
Yeah, I took commercial, professional restaurant butchery classes both in school, and I've continued to expand on that with both beef and hog activities with whole animal and
Mhm.
heritage processing and curing. Most every year, I do at least a few projects along
Yeah.
those lines. So yeah, so what we're gonna do is Justin has the hogs. I'm not real familiar with handling a lot of livestock. That's not something we've done.
We have chickens and we have geese. We don't have
Yeah.
large livestock at this point.
So I think we could set it up if we were doing one hog. I really would not want to do cattle because I just don't have that.
On
But
our property, no.
yeah, but we could do a kill on hogs. But Justin's going to do that. He has a shotgun, and then I'll take over from the logistics of his farm, his animals, and we're out of states, and it's his weapons. So
Yeah,
so we'll do that, and then we'll take over from there, and
do the
and
breakdown.
do the clean it and break it down, process and start curing and brining and
Yeah.
all of that. So that class, I don't know if there's any openings still available for it.
Check with Justin.
Check with Justin and Gumroad. He has postings, I think, for the class, but check with him directly on availability if you want to go down there. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday
Yeah.
class. There is a charge for it, and you are responsible for your own transportation, lodging, and
And
meals outside of the main lunch meal. So there is a relatively substantial cost, but well worth the. I mean, we're going to do like 20. What do we do? Like 25 hours of
Yeah,
on site. I mean, it's pretty
it's
intensive.
intensive.
By the time we're done, it would be as much basic butchery, more basic butchery and plus extra processing than most culinary students would see in culinary school. So we do it on a professional level, but very accommodating to the home person, and then you
Yeah.
can figure out at what steps you want to be involved.
Pleasant Places is
Oh,
going to
great,
be there, so we'll meet
good.
you in person. Awesome.
Yeah, so we're gonna have. I think it's up to as many as 12 people. Hollers will
Yeah.
be there. We will be there.
Art,
Hollers will be assisting and filming.
Art and Bree are going to help.
Art and Bree. Art's gonna be helping out. He's done a few hog
Yeah.
kills. I'm going to provide curriculum with that. We're holding down a lot of extra gear and processing equipment, like grinder. They have a nice grinder, but sausage presses. I have a new larger sausage press, so we'll stuffer. So I'm bringing down all that stuff. So we'll be doing those type of things as well. So it'll be very much an immersive, intensive, and I don't think that you have to do everything all at once. You pick up where it's interesting and convenient to you.
Yep.
And so we're going to do that as a combined activity.
Okay, I'm going to go back to another
Beef
question.
butchering manual, yeah, that's available. It's right here.
Yes, it is.
So,
Okay. The beef butchering manual.
It's on Gumroad.
It is in the description below. I did not play with the description on this third attempt at our live show tonight, so I will probably adjust the description so it moves up. But if you scroll down a little ways below this video, you should find the link to that.
Yeah, so I built a manual. I'm actually working on the pork manual today. So it has a number of recipes, tons of references to some great resources, some really top people and books. I did see the Holler video today.
Don't forget Puddin'. She's coming with us, but she's not staying on the farm.
She doesn't stay at the farm because she's not a farm dog. She's going to be staying with my family.
Yep.
For most of that time. Yeah. So the beef butchering manual is available if you want. So Justin has the course, the compressed course on video.
Yeah. Which the haulers edited
The
for me.
holler set,
Yeah.
shot and edited. So that's available if you want to see a lot of what took place. I actually need to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's released. And then if you want the written manual and all the lots of other material we couldn't even cover in written form on processing beef, I have that PDF available on Gumroad. It's $14.
Mm-hmm.
We'll send you the
That's the link down
we'll
below.
send you the PDF for it.
Yeah. And
I am revising it and adjusting it for hogs. So a lot of the stuff will be the same. We will probably put it together as a package where you can get both beef and hog for like $19 or $20. We'll include both of them, but that packet is not done yet. It will not be done until after we'll use it with the roads, and then we may make some edits and do some light modifications, but it'll be nearly done. So that's just that will give you a lot more of the details, but it won't have the visuals there. So
yeah. So okay, I did want to go back up to another question that came out. Where'd it go? Have you yet, or when will you plant in your new greenhouse? I will have a video coming out on planting seeds. However, our greenhouse has been in the upper 30-degree temperature, so things won't germinate at that temperature in the greenhouse. I'm starting some things inside that I will be moving to the greenhouse after they germinate. So yes, we'll do that. And I guess I don't want to say what I'm planting yet because it'll come out in the video probably this week. So I have to edit that and have it. So you'll have to watch for that. But I did want to get to that question. Did we miss any others?
Oh, you got to go back.
I was. Watch the video. You were definitely in your zone. That was awesome. No, it was good. It was good teaching. I'm trying to see also if I could find that link here real quick, but it might take me a second. Any other questions? I'm trying to see what we missed. Sorry.
I don't know.
What else? We did have a bunch of new people come in. That's awesome.
I don't know. Other questions, other people talking about whatever. Yeah.
No, I think we caught all the ones in caps anyway. Here's one, new one. When do you feel it's safe to plant outside where you live? Well, our average day of last frost is May 13th. So
you can look that up online.
Yes, you
by
can.
Your region.
You can look it up by zip code. Usually, just Google average days last frost, and you can find that. But ours is May 13th. That's average. So what I tend to do as we approach that date is I keep an eye on the weather. If 10 days out, the weather's looking like it's going to be really warm for the next 10 days, I'll start planting things or setting things out there earlier than that. I will put cold hardy things out before that.
Yeah, you got lots of things that can either be germinated or once germinated can go out that are pre-frost.
Yeah.
And the other thing, so there's a lot of people think about there's average last frost date, there is frost-free kind of guarantee day, which is way later. But if you think about those, a lot of that has to do with commercial planting, where you're going to monocrop a large amount all at one time over a few days, and you can't afford to lose it. If you think about if you're home gardening and you're doing small amounts, you can stage it out. In fact, it's highly recommended that you plant things successively in 1 week, 3 week, 6 week rotationals, so that it's sort of like investing in everything else. You get things ready at different times, but also you get the good and the bad, and so that you average, if you have drought or heat or cold, that you average them, and the chance that you're going to get a decent crop, even if you lose some or some becomes kind of bumper crop. So the other thing is you can plant early, and you can have a portion planted early, and all you're factoring in is the cost of the seeds and your labor time, and don't worry about it. If you lose it, you lose it, and you replant. Yeah. That's a different strategy if you're not a market gardener or in a large volume grower, where you've wasted so much labor and time and resources. go early and then replant, or leave a portion of it in your greenhouse, reset it. Another thing we were talking to on his video, I don't think said he ever got edited, was John Shirk, who's a
Yeah.
specialist, and he had amazing. We spent an amazing time with him, me and two other
It was
friends.
hours and I wasn't there, so I have to watch the entire thing, and I've been going through that really slowly. Sorry.
Yeah, you haven't looked at it in
Um,
months. So
no.
that one. So he had a discussion. He is really a super specialist gardener in hardening calorie crops, winter hardening
Hmm.
items, specialty crops, and doing test plots for seeds, and really bringing together small amounts of seeds and kind of pulling data on some of that. His theory is a lot of people plant really early and do a lot of starts, which is great. He goes the opposite. He goes, I don't care. He goes, you know what? That stuff is going to sit there until it's ready to grow, and
Yeah.
it could be a long time, like tomatoes. He goes, so what? You put it in the ground. He goes, the stuff I start maybe like tomatoes like 2 weeks before they go in, and I just get them started and put them in.
Yeah.
He goes, they do as well or they do better because of the stunting of hardening them off, changing, putting them in the ground, and all the rest. He goes, they take so much abuse and they don't always root well. He says,
Part
I
of it is
just,
getting root bound, though. Tomatoes are very much hindered by getting root bound,
yeah,
so you
but
don't want
even
to
if
do it
you're,
more than a couple weeks
so
before.
his theory on a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff is don't worry about it. Don't go, direct seed. Go just really close to your time on tomatoes and peppers and warm things, and just know that they're not going to do anything until you get warm soil. And so if you set them up to take off at that point, he feels like he gets as good or better of a result not playing as many games. So that's an interesting theory
Yeah,
that was
and
discussed in that video.
yeah, so we'll get that. I'll get back to that. I'm just trying to get through. I can only get to a couple videos a week with how much stuff we have going on around here. So, do apologize for that, but I am okay. Oh, was going through trying to find our link here to the Gumroad, but it'll take me a minute. Hello, Heaven's Gate Cherry Farm. So I got a number of people. Any other questions that came in? First time here. Okay. Um, and I think someone mentioned before, back a ways, if we caught the Hollers video today, which you
I
actually
did. It
caught.
happened to pop up when I was
Yeah,
on the computer, on the phone, and I watch very few videos. I watch a few videos a week. Hollers are one that sometimes I do watch their videos.
yeah,
Roads are definitely ones that I get most of, but not all their videos. I probably get about half their videos. So I did happen to see the video on them looking to or making an offer on a somewhat distressed piece of property.
yeah, yeah. And a foreclose is a foreclosure property.
Yeah.
So I think they're not, it could go through, it could maybe not. So I don't
How
know.
long do nettles need to go before stinging is gone? Well, you can blanch them,
To dry,
and when you
yeah,
blanch them, that releases the stinging.
yep,
And I think you could air them out and dry them at that point. But I would go ahead and blanch
yeah,
them.
yeah. So not sure about that house though.
There is some work to do on
Yeah,
it, and we looked at years ago when we bought our house in New York. We were looking at a variety of foreclosed. Now this was right during the 2008 crash when there's a lot out there.
yeah,
We were trying to work on a house that would need some renovations, pretty heavy renovation. And the challenge with that is everybody plays games. The bank plays games,
yeah,
and they wait and they wait and they wait and they try and get multiple bidders, and there's no timeline and there's no guarantee. So I don't know how things have changed, but um, the road is very steep, and we were prepared for that
mm-hmm,
and set up the best we could. And we ended up pulling out on our offer because the bank and places were playing games, and we had
yeah,
contractors right. We had situations where we needed to have contractors in line for the financing and to approve it, and we had everything lined up, and it wasn't going anywhere at all for months. And we just said, well, if you're not serious, we're out of here. We got something else. We bought a move-in ready
yeah,
house. So it can work out, but
yeah,
and I haven't talked to the Hollers. We'll see them, but
yeah.
it's a long process, and you got to fight that process to make good on and make that transaction work.
By the way, I know I was looking at the
Yeah, 3 days before settlement. Banks do that all the time. We were told
yes.
that Tina,
Yeah.
they because what they'll do is they'll wait. There is no guarantee. They're not a motivated seller.
No.
In fact, they're motivated to get more money and recover on it. So after you come and jump through every hoop of we have cash, we have this, we have that, we're going to move in right away. We'll do all these other things. We'll even take the mortgage with you or something. So um, they'll look for a second buyer, and as soon as they have a second buyer,
They'll play them off each other.
they'll play them off of each other. As soon as they think the market looks a little better and they get a few more dollars, they'll scrap the deal, and that is actually the normal from our understanding. Not so. What happened to you? And we were highly discouraged not to do it. We had a realtor and people that said, "Well, let's give it a try," but we understood what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so that experience of absolute terrible, waiting land for months or years and frustration was the standard then, and I think probably still ends up being that way a lot of the times. So,
yeah,
but sometimes it works.
It does.
I mean, I know people in our area that bought houses for $5,000 in downtown.
Yep.
They had to do some work with a contractor, but they bought a city lot. By the way, if you live in town where we are, you get free college education anywhere in the state, so that could be worth another $100 or $150,000.
We're not in that town, but we're outside.
Not, but
yeah.
So there are people that $5,000, $20,000 walked into homes, did some work. They have a home that's worth $80,000 now.
Yep.
Downtown, they're not.
As long as their kids go to public schools, then they get free tuition to any college in the state.
So it does work, but it's really tough.
And that's public or private. There's a lot of private ones that join that bandwagon too. So okay, but I wanted to mention, you guys, back a little ways, a couple minutes ago now, I did post the link to the beef butchery guide because I realized with all the craziness with my multiple attempts in getting this live show started, the description is not showing everything I want. So, but I did put it in the link there. I will adjust the description to make sure it has everything later.
Wait, say that again. The free education, is that what the question's about? That's for Judy.
Oh yeah. Say that again. How? Kalamazoo, the city of Kalamazoo, and the school district,
the
public school district. If someone lives in the city of Kalamazoo and their kids go to the public schools, it's prorated. So if they go to the public schools the entire time, they actually get free in-state education from any of the state schools and most of the private schools.
Any of the private schools that will take the funding that's available in
to the
full,
state,
which means most of the private schools have bought into that.
Yeah.
So it's called the Kalamazoo Promise. It's funded by people like Stryker and Upjohn and some of the larger the Kalamazoo. The cast iron ovens and taxis were built here. That company's out of business, but there's some large philanthropic wealth in the area, and to promote the continuing growth and generation of the city, if you are within those boundaries and you go to the public schools, prorated up through your 13 years of school,
thanks, Tina,
your kids can get absolute free tuition. You're going to pay room and board and books at any of the state schools, all the way up to University of Michigan, a whole lot of private schools. So that could amount to $50,000 to almost $150,000 of free education for each one of your kids.
13 moons. Is that true in Michigan? I don't know if that's true in Michigan, that you can go to any community college program free if you
they
graduate
are talking
from
the governor in the State of the Union was talking about doing some
setting
large grants for career and technical things. There are like Georgia, when we were there, you could go to community colleges for nearly for free, do a lottery. And so a lot of places are making the community college, like our local community college I teach for them, I think it is $3,500 a year plus books and extras. So they're
pretty, not free because
it's pretty inexpensive, but it's not free.
Our admin assistant goes there, and they're definitely not free. She graduated in state as well, but there's a lot of assistance programs for the community colleges in state.
And what I know from teaching in the schools a little bit, if you achieve and you do the right things and you look for the right and you look for the right scholarships, they're really working to help you out. When I was teaching in New York, if you graduated with an associate's degree from the 2-year program, they would actually help you get scholarship funding.
Mm.
If you went to a 4-year school, they would give you money to go away successful and get a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot, but it was free money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the community college system is
That's
very helpful when people use it efficiently
Yeah.
and are serious about getting their education. Our local area teaches high tower. They do especially things like high tower for cell tower and wind turbine. And so they're teaching some really specialized things that
technical stuff.
they
Yeah.
have like 98% of people are employed. They do basic line working for electrical and cable. Those jobs, you are employed before you get out of class.
Okay.
Almost always. You got to have something really wrong, like not going to school to not have a job from those specialty programs right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's some Michigan things. My sister was the smart one here because my parents actually taught for one of the community colleges in state, and they had a big nursing program. So she actually went because she was the daughter of instructors. She got to go to that program for free, and she got her RN, and then she started working for a university hospital and got her BSN for free while working for them, and then is now a nurse practitioner. I, on the other hand, am still paying off school loans for a private college. So yeah,
And when we were in Georgia, you could go. Yeah, they had. If you had, you had to have like a 3-hour or something in high
yeah,
school. You could pretty much get most of your tuition covered if you maintained a certain grade point. My brother did that. He went to Georgia Tech almost for free.
yeah,
At that point, I also went to the same school as Cindy in Michigan. We paid a lot of money to go there.
yeah.
So yeah,
Um, I did have scholarships for most of it.
yeah,
So
Duke, UNC, yeah, those are type of. We weren't quite paying those prices, but 20 years ago we were kind of paying almost the equivalent.
yeah, Kalamazoo College is in the same range as a
It's
lot
one
of
of the
them.
most expensive in Michigan, and it's up there with the
I
others.
believe
So
it might actually be the most expensive in
yeah, I think it
Michigan.
is, but it's not it's not as expensive as across the
East
country.
Coast, yeah.
Yeah, East Coast is. But
Yeah.
yeah, my theory has changed a lot teaching with students. My theory is if you're offered a scholarship for anything, pretty much take it and go
Mhm.
where the money is, especially the first 2 years or possibly the first four. You don't want to go to a place that doesn't teach what you want to do.
Right. Yeah.
But given the options of all other reasonable programs, the way things have changed over the years, taking that free or very low cost, if somebody else is willing to do it, I highly recommend students all the time. Like I went to culinary school in New York at the Culinary Institute of America, also one of the most expensive culinary programs. It's an amazing program, but I tell students locally all the time, there's a lot of reasons not to go. If you have family and you need to be here, you have jobs and commitments in the area.
Hmm.
If you don't want to leave the area because you're uncomfortable and you have to now house yourself and get out there and all the expenses of being out of town, it's a very expensive education. And when you can go to community college for $3,500, $4,000 a year, and you can go to a place like Johnson Wales or CIA, and a 2-year education might cost $100,000 right now. Basically, I said it's for the right person that's super motivated and pretty talented and going to take it very serious. I highly recommend it. And for everybody else, you're going to get almost the whole, you're going to get near the same education, doing it very inexpensively. And considering what you're going to make starting out, I'd take the inexpensive.
Yeah.
You're going to do better.
You didn't say 5 GPA. You said 3 GPA. I think. I don't know how anyone would get
Yeah,
over
you
5.
get. I think you have to get a 3.5. There are people they weight the GPA, so you get 4.5s. I don't know. I think it's silly. I never
Yeah, no.
understood that
I think they weight
because
the
of the
AP
AP.
classes.
But I still think it's stupid. If the top is 4, the top is 4. You can't do 4.5.
Right.
You just say you had a bunch of
Yeah.
AP or whatever. So
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things.
yeah, I think
different
you can
states
be
have.
really smart right now. I can tell you in the mid 90s,
Mhm.
economy was different. Schools were different. Costs were different. They were going up. And I think people evaluate how they do their education. The other big thing is right now with so many career and technical backgrounds, it's really hard to get a job in liberal arts and in specialties unless you're among the very, very best. So and there are so many really good paying jobs with the improved work safety and protections and work environments over the years. Doing technical work is not the same as doing old school factory hard labor of 50 and 75 years ago. So you're still, if you can figure out how to use machines and be smart and work, and work within that technology of the technical field, you can make a ton of money. And then you become a trainer, you can do just as well. You can have a very, gratifying education and work, and not the same pressures. And the idea that, somebody told me that people say, oh, go get a good job, go to college and do all of that because their parents worked in really boring, hard, somewhat dangerous factory conditions or
Mm-hmm.
other conditions. And really, it wasn't a great life, but it provided for their family in the next step. As some of that's, kind of changed, the idea that you have to go get a 4-year degree in psychology or be a doctor or a lawyer, or, literature or whatever these things, there's a lot of not jobs there. And then these other jobs have opened up. They're so highly demanding that you can make 6 figures doing these things that people were, oh, these are a low level job, you don't want it. That's not true.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend people look at a much broader range. That's, like Mike Rowe does he's what is it, the students do the tech stuff, and it involves all kinds of different technical things, skills USA.
Mm.
And that can be, it used to be everything from secretarial, which they still do some of that, to different planning, to culinary and all kinds of, but the idea that,
Yeah, no shame in trade
yeah,
jobs.
use your brain, work hard, you're going to do great. I think that was highly undervalued through the 90s. And so I would highly reevaluate that. If somebody's technically focused and that's what's interesting and they're
Yeah.
smart and they're good at it, don't
Go
tell them
for
to
it.
go do something stupid where they may not get a job. Tell
Or
them to
hate it.
get
Or
a
hate.
4-year degree as part
Yeah.
of it, but focus on doing what's needed. And so that world has changed. So
Yeah.
that's my big, I tell students all the time when they ask, and said, I don't want you to waste your money. I want you to use it properly. Now, if you're brilliant and you really love the
Yeah.
humanities, go do it. But you may also teach for no money, or do other things for no money, or not do that job, end up waiting tables, and be prepared that skill jobs are out there.
So Carla, yeah, absolutely. My parents, okay, my parents are both instructors. My dad had he got everything but the dissertation done for a PhD in history. And he told us, unless you want to be a lawyer, do not go into history. So,
Yeah.
unless you want to be a teacher or lawyer. So he's like, figure out where you want to go
There's so
and
many
then
hoops.
go
You
there.
got to go all the way through PhDs and everything else. And my background was in the humanities. We went to a humanities school that was very aggressive. I did pre-med. I used some of those skills in classes, so the chemistry, biology, physics, whatever. I
Mhm.
used some of that somewhat. And then I went to culinary school later, and did the trade aspect of it later, but always used it in reference to my 4-year degree. And
Mhm.
it allows me to do extra things like teach, and other activities because I have the balance of those things.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah. The biggest thing I tell people, and some schools and states have worked on this, you can look up on the US job boards how many jobs are in the field, what the average pay is, and how many jobs are expected to be increased or decreased over time. I think a school as a contract, when you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, as you look at a major, not only should tell you um, how many people graduate from their school or graduate from a program, what the percentage, they should tell you what your chances of getting a job are,
Mhm.
and what your low, average, incremental pay raise. And they should also tell you that there aren't really any jobs in map making. There's very few jobs in psychology. As a bachelor's degree,
There you go,
provides
Carla.
almost no employable jobs. You can be a counselor, but you could probably be a counselor without that. It doesn't give you unuseful tools and knowledge. It just doesn't provide you a job. So jobs that are going to require a master's degree, a PhD, and advanced training, they should tell you that also, so that a student is very, very upfront at 18 or 19, realizes what they're getting into, and that the end result may be, the threshold may be lower on other things, and you need to balance cost against success. I think colleges are really bad. So especially the finer institutions, which are, liberal arts, and they tell you you're here to think and you're here to learn about the world and understand your place in the world and make big discoveries. they're really bad at telling you about a lot of the degrees they offer actually don't have a job at the end.
No.
And that you should pick a major that will get a job, and then you should pick a minor that is interesting to improving your life.
Yeah. I was one of the ones who's rare who knew where I was going for the most part from high school on, so tailored my education to that. But that's the other problem is people right out of high school don't necessarily know what they want to
Yeah,
do.
fine arts degree, great minor, not always great major. Sometimes it is, but
Depends on how
it
you
depends
figure
on
out.
who you are. Depends on some luck and a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where education has changed. Is you need to be told the real story and
Yeah.
make good decisions because you're spending next to possibly buying a house or maybe including buying a house or not being able to buy a house. The money you spend on your education is among the largest bills you'll pay all year, your entire life.
Yep.
So
Anyway, I don't know how we got on that
yeah.
topic, but gets to be an interesting topic. How many people use their degree? You kind of use your uh, undergraduate
No, I
degree.
do. I use because I do some food. I do technical stuff on
Yeah.
my food. I've always used that as a means of problem solving or making better food, and I do use some nutritional aspects. Although I don't have a nutrition degree, um, I use those, and now I do more technical stuff with sorting out things with legal and paperwork on my
Yeah.
business. So I use all of that. I wouldn't say I don't use it, and
No.
it also knows that I worked really hard and challenging environment. It means that I'm not afraid to go through hard work. I'm not afraid to stand up in a crowd or stand up in a business and do the hard work that the idea sometimes when people don't have a college degree, they're like, well, I'm not good enough or I can't do as well as somebody because they had an experience and they're concerned about their abilities, which isn't always true at all. I know that I don't have any of that holding me back. Sometimes being able to have a degree um, allows prominence for me for
Yes.
authority to go ahead and do things in an environment, but it also means I'm not intimidated by people that want to use their degree to intimidate other people,
That's just ridiculous
which
too.
is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm not intimidated. In fact, it's just I laugh at it and like, well, whatever,
Yeah.
go use it for something useful. So those things, aside from the actual things I learned, are helpful. But many people get a degree after a technical, get a 4 year or training background, and you end up in the same place. So.
So anyway, you're right, Carrie. It is after 10 p.m. here. We're 1 hour ahead of you,
Yeah.
so we should wrap up here. But yeah, I I didn't even. I figured I'm going to. I was just expand on that. I would go to uh, going into undergrad. I knew I had to go on beyond undergrad for what I wanted to do because there was no real big jobs that you can survive off of in my area just straight out of undergrad. So, or not well. And it's
Time to go
after
to bed in Scotland. Yeah.
after 3 a.m. in Scotland, you're still
Yeah.
with us. So, we should wrap up because we've been babbling around about
But yeah, when
everything.
it blows my mind when you look at
Yeah.
people in the medical field, like radiologists, technicians. As soon as you do something specialized, as soon as you become a specialist in that field or you become a trainer, if you're doing anything, and welders, specialty welders, six-figure incomes, and because there's people that don't. Yeah, sometimes you're in rough environments.
Yeah.
Where it's not real pleasant, and so you get paid for that, or for being out of town, or working long hours, or middle of the night. But God, there's a lot of plant jobs where you're overseeing, activities where there's a lot of money. People don't realize they can't wait to hire people. People aren't trained, and as soon as you get 10 years in, all of a sudden you're a pretty hot commodity.
So I'll answer with one more question. Where are we in Michigan? We are in Southwest Michigan, about 40 minutes from the lake and outside of Kalamazoo. So we are in probably one of the warmer parts of Michigan. It's colder. We get more snow than the east side, but we get warmer modified temperatures because we're so close to Lake Michigan. So we don't usually talk about all this education stuff. We usually talk about food all night. So that was a different spin-off for our conversation, but it was interesting. So most of you guys already know I will be getting back to featuring a forged item again next week. And then we'll have more questions for Mike for
You need to
cooking
change your
related.
title, by the way, to
Yeah, I need to
2
change.
weeks ago.
No, that's from a long time ago.
Right, yeah.
It automatically put the title on here. Sorry about that. I have to change a lot with this stream, but anyway, um,
Yeah, we
but
have some possible snow coming in tonight. We could get 1 to 4 inches. We haven't seen much today. Got
yeah,
6 inches earlier in the week. I was saying our exit, we're close off I-94.
yeah,
Um, the exit before us, coming from the water, tends to have a lot of accidents and sort of freak
yeah,
ice ups or blowout snow. And then our exit sometimes becomes a little bit becomes a little icy. We have a guardrail along a lot of the area that's a wire guardrail. There are so many blowouts from cars going through it in the last 3 or 4 weeks. They can't even repair it. I mean, there are more places where there's more guardrail out than
yeah,
in. Was it Tuesday night and then Wednesday morning? I sat
yeah.
on the road with Jack's tractor. One was rolled off the side, and then I came back through in the mid morning. There's a truck across the lane, and they were trying to get that one off. Yeah, it's been it's been rough on the road with a lot of snow and iciness. So. Oh, we never did go back and answer the question
Oh,
about what was it, the pasta dish?
yeah. Don't forget to go sub Halsey Roots. They only need 800 subs to hit 10,000. That's
The
awesome.
Johnny Marzetti, which is remember way all the way back to that.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, I did look up Johnny Marzetti. It's a casserole originating from Ohio, and it basically is a tomato and sausage or meat casserole with pasta,
we got distracted.
and it can have like cheddar cheese and mushrooms and such in it. So it's a classic Midwest casserole with somewhat of an Italian profile. It sounds like kind of a disaster because it's got cheddar cheese over there. I have a personal one of the few things I dislike, and I have very few dislikes. I'm not a big fan of tomato sauce and cheddar cheese. Not so much like salsa, but in like Italian tomato sauce and cheddar cheese. That's just a personal thing. But yeah, it's a casserole. And how do you season that up? So how would I make that better? So I think garlic and onion, or granulated garlic and granulated garlic. Granulated onion and granulated garlic are a great way to enhance some back notes. Obviously, dry or fresh basil is great. Small amounts of oregano, that can be overpowering. If you like oregano, you could put that in. And pepper flake if you like it a little spicy. So your classic Italian seasoning blend to be added. And that's about it. It's definitely very Midwest. Not very authentic Italian, but it fills a lot of bellies. It does the job. So yeah.
So yes, let me just see if there was anything else that came through. I was trying to update things on here.
But I've never heard that term. Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that
I
either.
have no idea. I had to look it up. So
But the Midwest is very much known for casseroles
yeah.
and those types of things. Cheddar cheese from Mexican, not
Yeah,
Italian.
yeah. I don't mind like cheddar blends on like Mexican and
Yeah.
salsa, but for some reason that Italian tomato sauce and cheddar, it just hits an off note taste wise to me that I don't like, and I know some people don't mind it, but um, even doing like a tomatoey stuffed pepper with cheddar cheese on top is not my favorite. I'd like I like some form of a white cheese on there. That's I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So
that's personal. I'm sure some people like it fine. Like what is it? Cheddar cheese on pizza or the
right.
taco pizzas. Don't like it.
There you go.
I like both of them separate.
Hold the walnut said that. Yep.
Yeah, you know what? We grew up on a lot of casseroles. I don't mind a good casserole. It was funny. I was watching a couple weeks ago Frugal Family Food, which
on
is
Facebook.
I follow some because we know them and we've done some videos for them. And I like it because I do fine dining. And so it allows me to tap in and keep check with kind of what America's eating, which I'm not real. It's been a long time since I was in the. I don't sit around with like the housewives, moms. What are they cooking for dinner? That's not my regular circle. Um, and so, kind of remembering a lot of these things that I forgotten about are still in regular play. Also, remembering how to cook on what I consider an extreme budget for a lot of people, and the use of casseroles, which I enjoy. But a couple of things I noticed was a lot of, and mostly women saying, "Oh, I can't make casserole. My husbands hate casseroles. They just really want basically a piece of meat on the plate." And I always found that funny because we grew up with some casseroles and we weren't a starving family.
No.
Um, but we ate somewhat frugally because that was tradition.
Yeah.
Um, and so I grew up on powdered milk and canned salmon, and I eat probably a lot more extravagantly now than I did as a kid. But I think people also, all as a country, ate very much more simply. The idea that I think it was really, I found it really rude that there were so many people saying, wives that were very upset that they couldn't make a casserole because their husbands were really angry about having to have a casserole for dinner. And I think to some degree it shows. I mean, there is a prestige in having a piece of meat on the plate, a piece of chicken, a piece of beef or pork, and so I get that sometimes during the week you want that, but it's a great cost factor, and it's a great leftover blender to be able to create. And in fact, I said, we'll make a hash. A hash is a modern way of not doing a casserole, but binding with a starch, be it potatoes or pasta or rice or whatever. I see no harm in casseroles, and I see a lot of flexibility. The one issue is people can put weird things in there that don't go well, or you can fail to season them. You don't put enough salt in or salt and pepper. You don't put in enough spices, fresh, dry, or otherwise, to create a flavorful item. And I could see people complaining because they just find it not very tasty. But that was something that I find kind of sad that there was a lot of pressure not to serve. To me, paella, the best food, like family meal in the kitchens, paella type, jambalaya, rice dishes, hashes. You can always finish them with an egg on top. You can take your leftover meat or your smaller amounts of braised meat or roasted meat and you integrate it with now vegetables and all these other things, and that allows it also not only allows food costs but allows proper nutritional balance.
Yep.
and snaking things in there. So I'm a big fan for that.
Absolutely. And one last quick question. Oh, one comment on Desert Angel Homestead, provolone and mozzarella and Parmesan and
Pecorino Romano, and yeah,
all those.
Italian cheeses tend to be, there are soft ones, but most of them are hard or melty, semi-hard or melt, and most of them are acidic. They have a high natural MSG to them, which makes food taste better. That's why we use them. But they have some fermentation and acidity, which also makes your mouth water, make them taste better. Not that cheddar doesn't do that also, it just is a different flavor.
Yeah. Judy, yes, we do have fruit trees. They came with our property a few years ago, so we haven't actually grown any of them.
They're struggling a little bit, but
they're not in the best place and they're not the best types. But we do have apple trees. And we have a lot of wild berries on property, so raspberries and dewberries.
I love cream of mushroom. That's the I like making cream of mushroom soup homemade better as a soup. I don't like eating canned cream. It is a nice blender. I never use a lot of cream of chicken because we didn't grow up using that. I don't know if I even have any cream. I don't have any cream of mushroom at home right now, but it is a good tool when you are not making a velouté or a bechamel. It's a good effective tool to create some moisture and flavor background with other things. But yeah, it can be abused. All of these items can be abused. That's the problem, and become repetitive or just I don't know, bad things done to them.
Yeah. Well, can you move the trees? They're full grown.
I don't think they're worth the effort.
No. They might be worth grafting onto. That is something we could do, although I think only about 2 of them out of the 4 will be healthy enough to do that with.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother topic. We can go over, we do have some videos on the trees and kind of talk about what we're doing and stuff with them. And we do plan on putting more of a food forest up front, but that'll be a slow project. So we'll record some of that as well and post it as time goes with that project. But take cuttings and root them. We could do that.
We could do that. Yeah, their commercial stock. I don't think they were anything particularly special. So I would rather not throw good time and money at pretty mediocre product. I would rather,
if you root them and then graft onto those, that might
I would
work.
rather. And I think they were grafted, so the root stock is different than the tree stock already. So you'd actually have to root the saplings coming off of the root stock or whatever. I think we would be better off purchasing cold hardy selective dwarf or semi-dwarfs of our specific needs
Region.
and putting them where we want,
Yep.
and that would be a better use of inputs.
And do we have bees? That's on our wish list, so not yet.
Yeah, the 5 apple varieties. Yeah, those can be good.
Right.
I mean, they got other ones that grow like stone fruits that they grow all kinds of different stone
Yep.
fruits. I think they get a little crazy, but
Yep.
they're an interesting anomaly if it works.
And guess what? We do need to wrap this up because we've been going another 15 minutes beyond.
Yeah, yeah.
We're actually a half hour beyond. But yeah, so check out some of our channel. We do have over 200 videos. You'll find some information on the fruit trees, on our gardens, on our chickens. We'll get some videos going on the food forest, and we have a bunch of other projects. So we're everything food related, basically. Growing, cooking, foraging, everything projects related. So
We'll have to do a casserole cooking series.
oh, there you go. Okay, how many different casseroles can you come up with? You could probably come up with a lot.
Because they're unending, because they're creative throw togethers.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are going to say good night to everybody, and we'll come back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back with more talk about food. So see you later, guys.
Yep. Good night.